The champagne flute slipped from my trembling fingers, shattering against the marble floor of our honeymoon suite. "I'll be back before dinner," Marcus had said, pressing his lips to my forehead. That was 3 days ago. I stared at the pristine white bed, still perfectly made on one side. The rose petals I'd scattered across the sheets had wilted, their edges curling like accusations. Outside, the Maldivian sunset painted the ocean in shades of betrayal, deep purples and angry oranges that seemed to mock the romantic paradise we'd chosen for our first week as husband and wife. Another message from my mother. "Sweetheart, have you heard from him yet?" I couldn't bring myself to reply. How do you tell your mother that your husband of 72 hours has vanished into thin air? The hotel staff had been polite, but unhelpful. "Perhaps Sir went for a diving excursion," the concierge suggested on day 1. By day 2, they avoided eye contact altogether. But on this third evening, as I sat alone at the beachfront restaurant pushing grilled fish around my plate, everything changed. Madam Chen, the hotel manager, Mr. Rashid, appeared at my table. His usually composed face carried something I hadn't seen before, concern mixed with what looked like guilt. "May I sit?" I nodded, too exhausted to maintain pretenses. He glanced around the nearly empty restaurant before leaning forward. "I must tell you something, but please understand, this could cost me my position." His fingers drummed nervously on the white tablecloth. "Your husband, he did not leave alone." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean?" He said, "There was a woman, blonde, perhaps 30 years old. They took the morning seaplane together." He pulled out his phone, showing me security footage. There was Marcus, my Marcus, his hand on the small of another woman's back as they boarded the plane. The timestamp read 6:47 a.m., while I was still sleeping off our wedding champagne. "Her name," Mr. Rashid continued, sliding a folded paper across the table, "is Victoria Hartley. She checked in 2 days before your arrival. Room 412. My hands shook as I unfolded the paper. It contained more than just her name. There was a photocopy of her passport, her Los Angeles address, and a note in Marcus's handwriting: "Charge everything to the Chen account." "Why are you telling me this?" I whispered. Mr. Rashid's eyes softened. "Because 30 years ago, my wife discovered I was having an affair. She could have destroyed me, taken everything. Instead, she gave me a choice: end it immediately and work to earn her trust again, or lose her forever. I chose wisely." He stood, straightening his jacket. "The seaplane manifest shows they flew to Mail. From there, international flights leave hourly. But madam, there is something else." He handed me a second envelope. Inside were credit card receipts, jewelry purchases, restaurant bills, spa treatments, all signed by Marcus, all for room 412. The dates went back 6 months. 6 months! While I was picking out wedding flowers and tasting cake samples, he was building a paper trail of deception. I spent that night not crying, but planning. The 5-star resort that had been our dream destination became my war room. I spread the receipts across the bed, photographing each one. I called the credit card company, confirming what I already knew. Marcus had been draining our joint accounts for months, funding romantic getaways I knew nothing about. By morning, I had pieced together the truth. Victoria Hartley wasn't just his mistress. She was his business partner in a startup I'd never heard of. The wedding, I realized with crystalline clarity, had been his way of securing my trust fund. In our state, he'd need to stay married for at least a year to have any claim to it. But something had spooked him. Maybe it was the prenup my father had insisted on, or maybe Victoria had given him an ultimatum. A text from an unknown number. I know what he did. Meet me at the lobby bar at noon. A friend. The woman waiting for me at the bar was elegant, mid-50s, with the kind of posture that suggested old money and good breeding. Mrs. Chen, I'm Patricia Hartley, Victoria's mother. I nearly knocked over my water glass. You're horrified? Ashamed? Furious? She signaled the bartender for 2 glasses of wine. All of the above. I've been tracking my daughter's spending for months, trying to understand why she dropped out of her PhD program. Imagine my surprise when I discovered she's been gallivanting around the world with a married man. Patricia slid a tablet across the bar. On it were dozens of emails between Marcus and Victoria, planning not just their escape, but the systematic emptying of my accounts. They'd been planning this for nearly a year. The wedding was just a formality, a legal necessity for the larger con. He's been moving money offshore, Patricia explained, her manicured finger tracing the transactions. But he made one mistake. He used Victoria's laptop to access the accounts, and she saves all her passwords in her browser. I have everything. Why would you help me? Patricia's laugh was bitter. Because Victoria is my only child, and if she goes down this path, she's lost to me forever. And because, she paused, taking a long sip of wine, 25 years ago, I was you. Different man, same story. Nobody helped me then. I lost everything. We spent the next 3 days building our case. Patricia had connections, a forensic accountant who traced the money, a private investigator who documented Marcus and Victoria's current location, a villa in Costa Rica, and most importantly, a shark of a divorce attorney who specialized in financial fraud. The marriage can be annulled, the attorney Rodriguez explained over video call. Fraud vitiates everything. But we need to move fast before they can hide the assets permanently. The hotel staff, perhaps feeling guilty for their initial silence, became unexpected allies. The head of security provided additional footage, the concierge confirmed Marcus was planning the escape for weeks, and Mr. Rashid himself offered to provide a sworn statement. But it was the discovery in our honeymoon suite that changed everything. While packing my things, I found Marcus's backup laptop hidden in the room safe. He'd forgotten it in his rush to leave. On it were not just the financial records, but correspondence with 3 other women he'd been stringing along. Each promised a future, each being slowly drained of funds. I wasn't his first victim. I wouldn't be his last. Patricia and I flew back to Los Angeles together. An unlikely alliance forged in shared betrayal. She cut off Victoria's credit cards and trust fund access, while I froze every account Marcus could touch. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit was very interested in our evidence package, especially the international wire fraud. The confrontation came 2 weeks later. Marcus, forced to return when his accounts were frozen, agreed to meet at my attorney's office. He walked in with his usual swagger, designer suit impeccable, acting as if abandoning me on our honeymoon was a minor misunderstanding. "Baby, you're overreacting," he said, reaching for my hand. I let him take it, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction as I watched his face change when the federal agents walked in. "Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes." As they led him away in handcuffs, he turned back, his mask finally slipping. "You stupid—" "Careful," Ms. Rodriguez interrupted. "Anything you say can and will be used against you." Victoria was arrested the same day, caught trying to board a flight to Switzerland. Patricia was there, watching as her daughter was taken into custody. "I'm sorry," she whispered to me, "for both of us." The legal proceedings took months, but the outcome was never in doubt. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence, serving 3 years in federal prison. Victoria got 18 months and probation. The money was recovered, the marriage annulled, and I walked away with my dignity intact and a hard-earned education in trust. But the real victory came later, in the quiet moments. Mr. Rashid sent me a letter 6 months after the arrest. His hotel had implemented new security protocols to protect guests from similar situations. He thanked me for handling everything with grace, for not blaming his staff for their initial reluctance to get involved. Patricia and I remained in touch, an odd friendship born from shared pain. She used her experience to start a foundation helping women identify and escape financial predators. I became one of her first board members. The honeymoon suite in the Maldives became a strange symbol in my story, not of love betrayed, but of truth revealed. Sometimes the most beautiful places hide the ugliest truths. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives hand us the keys to our freedom. I kept one photo from that trip, not of Marcus, but of the sunset on that third night when Mr. Rashid handed me the truth, wrapped in a hotel envelope. The sky was on fire, burning away illusions, clearing the path for whatever came next.
These days, when people ask about my shortest marriage, I tell them the truth. 3 days. But those 3 days taught me more about strength, dignity, and the power of unlikely allies than the previous 30 years combined. The champagne flute I dropped that first night, the hotel staff told me they found the pieces and had them made into a small mosaic that now hangs in their employee break room. A reminder, they said, that sometimes things need to shatter completely before they can be transformed into something beautiful. Marcus never tried to contact me after his release. I heard through legal channels that he'd moved to another state, started over with a new name. Victoria disappeared entirely. Patricia thinks she's in Europe, trying to reinvent herself. I hope they both learned something, though I doubt it. Predators rarely change their patterns. They just find new hunting grounds. But survivors, we build networks. We share our stories. We watch each other's backs. Last month, I received an email from a young woman in Texas. Her new husband had vanished on their honeymoon in Cabo, taking her grandmother's inheritance with him. She'd found my story online, reached out desperately for advice. I connected her with Ms. Rodriguez and Patricia's foundation. Within 72 hours, they'd frozen the accounts and tracked him to Vegas, where he was already working on his next mark. He's now facing federal charges. The cycle continues, but so does the resistance. These days, my phone buzzes with different kinds of messages. Not worried texts from family or threats from lawyers, but thank you notes from women who've reclaimed their power, their money, their lives. Each one is a small victory, a champagne toast to survival. The Maldives Hotel still sends me Christmas cards. Mr. Rashid was promoted to regional manager, partly due to his handling of my situation. He implemented a company-wide policy. Staff are now trained to recognize and report signs of guest distress or potential fraud. They call it the Chen Protocol, which makes me smile. I never remarried. Not because I don't believe in love, but because I learned to love myself first, to trust my instincts, to value my worth beyond what someone else assigns it to. I date occasionally, but with eyes wide open and accounts firmly separate. The white dress for my wedding hangs in my closet still, not as a reminder of failure, but of transformation. I had it altered, dyed a deep burgundy, the color of wisdom, of blood, of rebirth. I wore it to Patricia's foundation gala last year, where we raised $2 million for financial literacy programs. Marcus saw the photos online. I know because he created a fake profile to view them. The private investigator Patricia keeps on retainer flagged it immediately. He looked older in his profile picture, grayer, diminished. The comments on the gala photos were full of women sharing their own survival stories, creating a digital quilt of resilience he could never tear apart. Which city are you listening from? I wonder sometimes. Thinking about all the women out there who might need to hear this story. Maybe you're in your own honeymoon suite, sensing something is wrong. Maybe you're staring at receipts that don't add up, at text messages that contradict themselves, at a partner who seems too good to be true. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Find your allies in unexpected places. Sometimes they're hotel managers with guilty consciences. Sometimes they're the mothers of your rival. Sometimes they're attorneys who've seen it all before and refuse to let it happen again. The secret Mr. Rashid slipped me that night wasn't just about Marcus's betrayal. It was about the power of truth, the strength in sisterhood, and the dignity in walking away with your head high, even when your heart is shattered like champagne glass on marble. Especially then.